Breaking tonight, BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport is shut down at this hour. This is a live look at the airport right now. The airport says the terminal roadway is closed right now as well due to what it is calling a law enforcement investigation. Anyone inside the airport terminals being told to stay in place at this hour.
Now, the FAA has issued a ground stop at the airport, although we have seen some planes still taking off. Those are planes clearly that had passengers on them, and then some planes were allowed to come into the airport and land. But this went into effect about 30 minutes ago. We are getting reports again that some flights have been allowed to take off, so we'll keep you posted on that. And we know the MTA has also sent an alert saying light rail service into BWI Airport has been suspended. Again, a law enforcement activity situation has shut down travel into BWI. Drivers are being told not to travel into the area. People inside the airport being told to stay put. Our newsroom monitoring this story. We'll have more news coverage as we learn more. We continue our coverage on the war in Israel. Rockets lit up the sky over the city last night of Ashkelon as the attacks on Hamas continued. This is damage of those rockets caused homes and the streets destroyed. It's unclear right now how many were injured as a result of those strikes. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Here's the latest on what we know about the developing situation in Israel. The death toll is growing on both sides. So far, more than 2,200 people have been killed in Israel and Gaza. The Israeli airstrikes are leveling communities in Gaza. You can see some of that damage on the right side of your screen.
At least 22 Americans have been killed in the fighting, and an unknown number are being held hostage by Hamas, we understand. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is on his way to Israel right now with a team to try and bring those hostages home.
We lost 22 Americans. That number could still go up, and it probably will. At the same time, we have a number of Americans who remain unaccounted. We are working very closely with the government of Israel to determine their whereabouts and, if they have been taken hostage by Hamas, to work to secure their release.
Fox 45 News will continue to bring you the latest on the war in Israel. You can follow along on air and online at foxbaltimore.com.
Also breaking tonight, a 7th grader in Baltimore is found with a loaded handgun. This was earlier today at Joseph C. Briscoe Academy in East Baltimore. Now, the school administration tells Fox 45 News that student was involved in an altercation with a staff member earlier in the day. We understand the student left the school saying he would return with a gun. Authorities say the student did return with a loaded gun and was arrested. There's no word right now on what kind of consequence that child is facing. Keith Daniels will have much more in this story coming up tonight at 10.
An absolutely beautiful day underway, and as we're heading now towards the late afternoon, some perfect weather. I know I had my windows open on the trip into work. Just absolutely gorgeous for anything outside. 71 right now. Says mostly cloudy skies on the Mile 1 Taos cam, or at least from the reported BWI. But you take a look at the Mile 1 Taos cam, it doesn't really look like we have a whole lot of clouds here. Winds out of the west-southwest, 8 miles an hour, and that's going to blow in some somewhat milder air. But look at that humidity, bone dry at 30%, and the dew points only in the 30s. So this is some good feel air. Real fall supreme here. 71 degrees in Baltimore right now, 71 at Cockeysville. 71 brilliant skies at Bel Air, 71 at Chestertown, right about 70 or so at Laurel, 69 at Columbia, and temperatures in the low 70s out in Frederick right now. Taking a look at the HD radar, we are tracking some moisture that's down to our south and west. You can see plenty of tropical rains, Memphis down to Atlanta. And then there are also some showers from Minneapolis south to Chicago. And again, this could incorporate into our next weather maker, which eventually is going to get here, I think, into Saturday and maybe bleeding into Sunday and beyond with some scattered showers. You see plenty of rain down to our south, but for now, we are escaping it with warmer weather setting up and staving the rain away at least for a day or two until probably the weekend. Yeah, unfortunately, that's when you're going to have those plans that you want to get in there, and it's not going to be looking pretty. Temperatures in the 70s at St. Louis, 74 at Memphis. Interestingly enough, one of the cool spots on the map is New Orleans right now at 63 because they are getting pouring rain there. 71 here in Baltimore, but notice that warmth arcing up toward us from the south and west. Going to be a couple of days until the temperatures temper back down. I think by the weekend, it's going to be harder pressed to get out of the 60s, and potentially some computer models are saying maybe even the 50s for highs. So it's going to be a chilly rain that could be around here. Now out in the tropics, we now have Tropical Storm Sean. This was Tropical Depression 19 last night. Looks like that's going to stay a fairly weak tropical storm over the next several days, barely even a tropical storm at 40 to 45 miles an hour on the winds there, eventually becoming a tropical depression. So that won't be something likely that we're going to be concerned about. But the future scan says, as we head through the remainder of the afternoon into this evening, temperatures falling from around 70 back into and through the 60s. Overnight tonight, back into the 40s to near 50, kind of like what we've been seeing. And then another mostly sunny day for tomorrow and some more gorgeous temperatures. This may be overshooting things a little bit. I'm thinking highs maybe more like the mid to upper 70s, but this is saying almost 80 degrees for tomorrow afternoon. Take a look at your 7-day forecast. Will be about, again, mid to upper 70s for tomorrow. 72 on Friday, mostly sunny skies. Yep, just in time for the weekend. Saturday, 60s at best. Some early showers, especially on Sunday, but some computer models are saying that this system may be slow to go, so it could be maybe even some sprinkles and light showers for even Sunday, maybe even into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, as high temperatures only stay likely in the low 60s at best there. But again, kind of the main takeaway here, outdoor activities, if you want to take a day or two off Thursday, Friday, going to be the best time to do it. And then rain moving in with cooler temperatures on Saturday. And it looks like it could stay unsettled all the way well into next week. Look at those high temperatures, barely even making it into the 60s as we head into the middle of next week. And of course, again, we'll continue to track this next weather maker as it moves our way. And yes, once again, the weekend not looking very nice here as we work into Saturday and Sunday as well.
Well, the war in Israel rages on. Israel and Hamas continue to fire rockets and launch attacks as the death toll grows.
The war has already claimed at least 2,200 lives on both sides, along with 22 Americans killed in the conflict. This is the scene from the funeral for an Israeli soldier. His friends and family members are just some of the thousands of Israelis who are mourning the losses from Hamas's attacks.
At the same time, this is what's happening in Gaza. Israeli airstrikes decimated neighborhoods. Palestinian officials say dozens of buildings, including homes, schools, and medical institutions, have been flattened. The death toll is rising by the hour, and hospitals are overwhelmed with the wounded.
And as the war rages on, Fox 45's Patrice Sanders spoke with an Air Force Brigadier General about what we can expect to see in terms of American involvement.
We are 5 days into the war between Israel and Hamas, and fighting continues. The U.S. says it stands firmly with Israel and will provide support. Air Force Brigadier General John Teichert is currently running for U.S. Senate, but we spoke with him as a military expert about the strategy we could see play out and what we can expect in the days ahead.
Yeah, let me start with the United States. And we need to, first of all, make sure that we're protecting and supporting American citizens in Israel and the region. Then we need to support Israel, especially with intelligence, but to some extent supplies and logistics. We need to ultimately posture our military to deter other actors in the region that would do things that would take advantage of the situation. And ultimately, I think, Patrice, we need to resolve the dysfunction in Washington that is hindering our ability to support Israel and to project power around the world.
When we talk about the U.S. involvement, they are sending folks over to try to help with the hostage negotiations and to get those folks out of there and back home. How does that work?
No, and so just think about the brutality of using women, children, the elderly as human shields and now as kidnapped victims. And of course, we've got expertise in that area in our special operations forces, and we are working alongside of our Israeli partners to make sure that they understand the nuances of how to undertake such a challenging and difficult mission.
Well, as for how long this war could go on, he says it depends on the objective of Israel. If they want to eradicate Hamas, that would take years. But to limit their ability to do something like this in the future would take a shorter amount of time. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
Baltimore City Councilman Isaac Hitchie Schleifer is calling for an audit of Mayor Scott's public safety agency. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has been investigating the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, MONZI, for 2 years. Mackenzie joins us live with the latest on the demand for transparency. Mackenzie?
Yeah, okay, so we first brought you this story last week when we heard from some members of this audit commission who are telling Fox 45 News that they would agree and believe that MONZI should be added to the audit list and at least have an audit performed right now. As we look at the audit schedule right now, there are various city agencies that are included that get audited regularly. But because MONZI was created and newly created in 2020, it isn't included on that list. And given all of the concerns that we have been hearing about and we found from our own investigation about MONZI and specifically Safe Streets, which is the city's flagship gun violence prevention program, now we're hearing from some leaders who say that they too think that there should be a fiscal audit of how MONZI is spending the money. And if you remember, Kai, we know that MONZI essentially acts as a pass-through agency for some $20 million for the Safe Streets program because there are two nonprofits that operate the 10 locations scattered all across the city, and those nonprofits are Catholic Charities and LifeBridge, and those two get the money from the city and then they operate the Safe Streets program. But how those agencies spend the money really seems to be at the center and really the crux of this call for an audit to make sure that taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely.
Right, so Mackenzie, Councilman Schleifer calling for an audit. What can we learn from it, and is it likely to actually happen?
Well, those are two big questions, right? The councilman tells me today that he believes that an audit would show how those dollars are being spent and would really provide the city some insight into who the employees are, how the money is being spent, and what the program is really doing on the ground. As you know, we have been going to all of the locations, knocking on doors, trying to figure out for ourselves what the program looks like for these employees. They're called violence interrupters. What does their training look like? What are their hours? And how is this program really mitigating and potentially interrupting the violence, which is at the core of the mission? If the audit is approved and is performed, some of those questions perhaps could be answered. Whether it's likely, that's another question, because right now it would be up to the chair of this audit commission, which is Councilman Eric Costello, who has told Fox 45 News he believes that this is something that should be done. It would be up to him to call for a one-off audit. Otherwise, adding MONZI to this routine list of audits would require a city charter amendment. One thing that really struck me today when I was talking to the councilman was what he talked about in terms of the political climate for the mayor and his upcoming re-election bid. He says that if the mayor is unsuccessful, it's unclear the future of MONZI if a new administration takes over, and if an audit is requested, it may not be done in time before those voters cast their ballots. The councilman is calling on MONZI to hand over that information. He says that they already they have that information, and they are just asking for them to show the public how this money is being spent. Kai?
All right, Mackenzie, thank you for all that information. We do appreciate it. That brings us to our question of the day. Should there be an independent audit of MONZI? We just opened this poll. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. And stay with us. We'll be right back. And we continue to follow the breaking news out of BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport right now. The airport has been shut down now close to an hour. This is a live look at the airport. The airport says the terminal roadway is also closed due to what it is calling a law enforcement investigation. This is where the issues are happening, not inside the airport. Anybody inside the terminal, though, is being told to stay in place.
Yeah, we don't know the specifics of that investigation, but according to reports, it involves a vehicle that's being inspected. Now, the FAA has also issued a ground stop at the airport, but we're getting reports that some flights have been allowed to take off.
And we know the MTA has also sent an alert saying light rail service into BWI has been suspended. Again, law enforcement activity shutting down travel into BWI Airport right now. That's going to cripple travel throughout this region. Drivers are being told not to travel to the area either. People inside the airport, again, told to stay put. Our newsroom is monitoring the story. We'll have more as we get more information into our newsroom.
Breaking tonight, a 7th grader in Baltimore is found with a loaded handgun. It happened today at Joseph C. Briscoe Academy in East Baltimore. Now, the administration at North Avenue tells Fox 45 that student was involved in some kind of altercation with a staff member earlier in the day. Apparently, the student left the school saying he would return with a gun. And authorities say the student did return with a loaded gun and was arrested. School officials say he was found with that gun outside of the school and never made it into the building with the weapon. There's no word on what kind of consequence that child is facing. Keith Daniels will have more on the story coming up tonight at 10.
All right, time to talk about our weather. A really beautiful fall day out there today.
Yeah.
It was perfect, not too cold.
Not too cold, not too warm.
And the sun is still strong that it feels warm.
Yeah, it's one of those open windows type weather afternoons. I know I was driving around running some errands before work, and I almost didn't want to get out of the car.
I know.
Because I had the windows
Nice.
open.
Yes, beautiful.
Breeze, the leaves are starting to change.
I know.
Anyway, let's get right into things, get back to reality here. And yes, it is beautiful weather for now. And actually a warm week's end. Temperature 70 to 75 probably all the way through the end of the week, maybe even mid to upper 70s perhaps for tomorrow, but a big weekend cool down coming, and that's going to be with a weekend weather maker as well, which means, yes, the next storm system could bring a bit of a washout for at least portions of the weekend. Right now it's 71. Just a few clouds around. We're calling it mostly cloudy from BWI, but I'm not seeing that. We've got mainly sunny skies on the Toyota Asian Harbor Skycam. Take a look there over Camden Yards. Big thank you to the O's for a very action-packed season. Winds out of the west-southwest at 5-10 miles an hour, and our humidity is at 30% with a dew point. That's our measure of moisture in there. When that's in the 30s, it's got that crisp fall feel like we have outside. Nice and dry. 71 in Baltimore right now, 71 at Cockeysville, near 70 at Bel Air, as well as at Elkton, 69 at Columbia, and 70 at Laurel. Get this morning, we were down to 43. Had that a couple of days ago, but before that, it was back in early May, the last time that we were this chilly. 34 up at Cumberland. That's frosty this morning. 42 at Hagerstown, and some mid to upper 40s along the eastern shore. I think we'll do that again for tonight. Very similar temperatures. Now, HC radar shows a whole bunch of rain that's down to the south across portions of the southeastern U.S. and also the Gulf South. New Orleans just getting absolutely hammered with a good rain today. And then there's also some rain right around Chicago. Some of this all going to combine into our next weather maker perhaps and give us a bout of showers as we work into Saturday and maybe even bleeding into the second half of the weekend. I wouldn't even be surprised if some of these last into early next week. But for now, it is warmer. Fair weather high pressure, at least briefly, is our fair weather friend and our weather maker. That's 71 here in Baltimore. How about a 78 at St. Louis, 78 at Oklahoma City? This type of warmth could be heading our way for tomorrow with some mid to upper 70s. Look at New Orleans, though, where it's raining. It's 63 right now, and I think we could be seeing some similar temperatures and similar conditions, unfortunately, for your weekend plans. Now, out in the tropics, we have Sean, newly formed off tropical depression number 19. That's where we were last night. Now we've got a at least weak tropical storm that is in the eastern portion of the Atlantic. That eventually will likely weaken back out into a tropical depression as we head through the next few days. And then there's also a low chance of development that's in the eastern Atlantic. That may have some slow development as well as it skirts its way westbound. So that's something to watch. Otherwise, around here, temperature is going to be settling into crisp levels overnight with some partly cloudy skies. Temperatures mid to upper 40s to right around 50 degrees for tomorrow. Maybe some jackets in the morning, and in the afternoon, there you go. We're well back up into the mid to upper 70s once again So another gorgeous day for Thursday. I think Friday still pretty nice with a high 72. On Saturday, rain in the 60s at best. Some computer models are saying only 50s for both weekend days. Sunday, at least some early showers. Again, some other computer models say there could be a few more isolated ones left for the afternoon. It could even stay unsettled. At least some isolated showers early next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and highs below average, 60 to 65.
Jonathan, thank you. We have an update to the breaking news out of BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport. An all clear has just been given at the airport. The airport shut down in the last hour because of a law enforcement activity. Again, an all clear given at BWI Airport just moments ago. Now, we can confirm traffic is also moving again. It is backed up, but it is going to start moving once that traffic light turns. The FBI and ATF have also joined the investigation. We'll have more on this situation at BWI, what caused it, what started it, and how it's being resolved right now. Well, county leaders and prosecutors are saying the current juvenile justice laws need to change. The changes they're demanding from Annapolis ahead of the next legislative session. As O's fans recover, we're looking ahead to what comes next for the team after the Orioles' early exit from the playoffs.
The road through postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
From Nathan Eovaldi. And big game Nate has done it again. Nathan Eovaldi.
And just like that, the Orioles' magical season comes to an end. The O's swept in 3 games by the Texas Rangers. Sports Unlimited's Rocco DeSangro has more on what's next for the team.
Needing a win to keep their season alive, the O's were simply outplayed in Game 3 of the ALDS. Dean Kramer just 1 2/3 innings pitched and 6 earned runs, while the O's bats only managed to score 1. As their season, one of the most memorable seasons in recent years for the O's, ends here in Arlington with a 7-1 defeat to the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, it's not how you want to end the season. Felt like we fought to the end and just didn't work out in our favor.
Yeah, this feeling sucks, but on the bright side, this is our first taste of the postseason. And I mean, we're all basically pretty much everybody in this clubhouse is coming back, so a lot of good years to look forward to.
This marks the first time the O's have been swept since May of 2022. And this loss will sting for a while, but it's one that will serve as motivation for this core group of young guys that will be back here in 2024.
This hurts, and it's okay to hurt, and it's okay to have this kind of fuel your fire in the off season. You know, it's going to take a little bit while for us to get over this a little bit, but I think our guys are going to come in hungry in spring training. The guys that are coming back, especially the young guys, knowing what this feels like, knowing what this tastes like, and it sucks.
It was a lot of fun, when we were playing, and yeah, I think next year we're going to be excited and hopefully make it back again next year.
We were able to win our division, so going into next year, that's what we're going to expect out of ourselves. You know, we've turned the tables here, and we expect to win. So I think that's just where we all are as players. That's what we're going to expect out of ourselves next year, is to get back here and make a run, take it all the way to the end.
And we see it all the time. Guys from the other team watching the winning team celebrate a championship or division victory. Ryan Mountcastle, one of the Orioles that was watching the Rangers celebrate that Game 3 win from the top step. Talk about motivation going forward. That's really all you need right there. For now in Arlington, Rocco DeSangro for Sports Unlimited.
And remember, you can still follow the latest postseason action with the Rip and Rock podcast. Rocco and Ryan Ripken break down every playoff matchup with new episodes every Monday. You can stream them anywhere you get your podcasts. And we are your exclusive home for the 2023 World Series. The Fall Classic begins Friday, October 27th. You can catch all the action right here on Fox 45. Well, 6 weeks into the school year and still no answers for the busing issues plaguing Howard County families. The changes parents are demanding tonight. And the next legislative session is now 3 months away, breaking down the proposals on youth crime from top lawmakers in Annapolis.
Now, a Fox 45 News Alert in 3, 2, 1.
It is 4:30. We're updating the breaking news out of BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport. In the last 10 minutes, an all clear was given at the airport after a ground stop. Our newsroom is working to confirm why the airport shutdown happened in the first place.
And you're looking live at pictures of the roads leading up to the airport. Folks, listen, this is going to be a mess, even though the all clear is given for the next several hours until things level out. If you are heading to work at BWI, if you work there, if you're about to get off work from work at BWI and come home, if you're expecting someone, if you're expecting a flight to come in or trying to leave, please keep in mind this is going to be effective for the next several hours. Even though the all clear is given, it's going to take a while for things to level out here. Again, traffic is moving again, albeit slowly. And again, for the past hour, traffic was and still is bumper to bumper. All clear has been given, as we just said, at the airport after a law enforcement activity shut things down. The FBI and ATF have joined the investigation, we understand. Fox 45 News will provide any additional information that becomes available. Continuing coverage tonight as the Carroll County State's Attorney joins other prosecutors across Maryland sounding the alarm about juvenile crime and the laws that they say need to be changed.
That's right. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker sat down with him today, joins us live with his concerns. Maxine?
Well, Mary, like other state's attorneys that we have spoke to, he says his hands are tied when it comes to holding juveniles accountable. Across Maryland, juvenile crime is on the rise. From Baltimore City, where an 11-year-old was captured by police 17 times for car theft and other crimes, never facing charges, to the Eastern Shore, calls for change are growing louder.
Our hands are largely tied in connection with dealing with those particular issues.
In Carroll County, State's Attorney Haven Shoemaker is joining the chorus of state's attorneys who tell us current laws on the books are making their jobs harder when it comes to holding young people accountable.
Even here in Westminster, our county seat, we're seeing like a revolving door. The same juvenile offenders over and over again, coming in the door and then going back out the door to continue to engage in their nefarious activities. There's not a whole lot we can do about it because we're hamstrung by the laws that are in place.
Shoemaker says they're not seeing the uptick like surrounding areas.
We're close enough to those areas where our fear is ultimately it will spill over.
But what they are seeing are younger and younger offenders who he says knows the crimes they can get away with thanks to the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, which limits those 13 and under to charges for crimes of violence and says a juvenile under 10 cannot be charged.
Not only do they know, I suspect they're involved in many instances with criminal enterprises. And the adults who are running those operations know that our laws are so lax that these folks can't be touched. And so they're using them as mules or whatever to engage in criminal activity.
The law also calls for 6 months probation for juveniles who commit adult misdemeanors and 1 year probation for juveniles who commit adult felonies.
How are juveniles supposed to be rehabilitated?
Another law he takes issue with, the Child Interrogation Protection Act, which places limits on child interrogations, requiring an attorney be consulted when a child is taken into custody and their parents or guardians notified.
It basically is a situation where law enforcement is being hamstrung by this particular law. There are many instances where, as a result of an interrogation of a juvenile, law enforcement can be apprised of other folks who are involved in criminal activity, perhaps even adults, that they could go after. And now there's a chilling effect on law enforcement's ability to gain that kind of information.
He calls it juvenile criminal coddling and says victims are suffering.
We are concerned and we feel empathy for the folks who are being victimized on a virtually daily basis, by juvenile offenders, who are doing these things, knowing that they're able to get away with it. And that's what's unacceptable.
Shoemaker says lawmakers should have held a special session, and he's hopeful there will be an effort to roll back some of these measures come January.
We can only hope that they'll not listen to just folks like me or my 23 colleagues across the state or the chief prosecutors in their counties, but hopefully they'll listen to their citizens, because their citizens are saying the exact same thing. Enough's enough.
Well, Shoemaker says that he does plan to be at Annapolis this session to testify about the negative effects these laws are having on communities throughout Maryland. Reporting live in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. Fox 45 News has heard from more than a dozen state's attorneys across Maryland who represent 5.4 million people, roughly 87% of the state's population. Those prosecutors say their hands are tied. Prosecutors are also taking issue with the proposed bill backed by Senator Jill Carter, which would automatically charge anyone under 18 as a juvenile. They argue some crimes are severe enough to carry adult charges.
How do you tell a victim's family that you can't charge someone as an adult because of their age when they've committed such a horrible act?
Senator Carter doesn't think juveniles fully understand their actions because their brains aren't fully developed. She says a prosecutor can ask for cases to be moved to the adult system if necessary.
And it is not just prosecutors voicing concern over the state's response to the juvenile crime crisis. Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks is calling for change after a 16-year-old is shot and killed in Fort Washington.
It's an epidemic and a crisis that has to be addressed at every level. I am going to have conversations with the governor. He's reached out as well to bring all of us to the table. There is no excuse for violence, none. I don't care the age of the child who commits the violence. Living in a safe place is a fundamental right of every person in this community.
Well, the next legislative session is 3 months away, and juvenile crime is set to be one of the key issues the legislature hopes to address.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost breaks down every angle of the debate from the accountability desk before the next session.
We're back at the accountability desk because I want to walk you through where things stand right now, especially as we continue to hear more concerns about juvenile crime. January 10th is the first day of the General Assembly, so we're still a few months away. Right now, there haven't been any bills formally introduced, but there is some talk about what could be debated when lawmakers return, especially when it comes to juvenile crime. We've heard from prosecutors and policing communities all across Maryland, essentially begging lawmakers to make some changes to the current juvenile justice laws. I pressed Senate President Bill Ferguson about what's being debated that he's hearing about among other colleagues. Here's what he said.
It feels like there's not a lot of urgency happening. Why is the General Assembly not moving quicker to get a handle on this before more people's lives are impacted by this?
Look, I push back to say that there's not urgency. It's something that I'm talking about with other members and my community every single day. It's probably the thing that keeps me up the most at night. I mean, look, we're reviewing all of it right now.
One of the ideas forming and being talked about among lawmakers right now isn't a new one. Senator Jill Carter, she's a Democrat from Baltimore City, and she's introduced plans in the past to automatically charge anyone under 18 as a juvenile, regardless of crime. And then in the past, there have been other bills introduced in the House calling for the same thing. Now the alliance seems to be growing, and it also includes Secretary for Juvenile Services, Vincent Schiraldi.
We're recommending once again to eliminate the automatic trying of kids as adults.
And don't forget, during Secretary Schiraldi's confirmation, he faced some opposition from lawmakers because of his previous comments and his stance that he doesn't believe anyone under the age of 25 should necessarily be involved in the adult criminal justice system. Now we have House Speaker Adrienne Jones. She tells me in a statement she doesn't believe that this automatic charging as juveniles should necessarily go forward because of the already stressed Department of Juvenile Services. In the statement, Speaker Jones also says she doesn't believe DJS is fully capable and equipped to rehabilitate some of these younger offenders who are committing crimes like murder or rape. While it's clear the speaker doesn't appear to be in line with Carter's proposal, let's talk about what it means in reality. Let's take two examples. We have a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old. 16-year-old facing carjacking charges and a 17-year-old facing attempted murder charges. Right now, under current law, both of these cases could start in the adult criminal justice system. Now, a defense attorney could ask a judge for these cases to be moved to the juvenile system. But if Senator Carter's bill becomes law, both of these cases, they would start in DJS, the Department of Juvenile Services. Critics of DJS already say that the department doesn't provide adequate services, but the concerns really go beyond that. We also know that possible plea deals, services, sentences, and really a juvenile's record are sealed, meaning the public has no idea what happens once that person goes into the system. We spoke with a local attorney about his thoughts on this proposal. Here's what he said.
If you have this change in law, you will see juveniles charged with very serious crimes, with very secretive proceedings to protect their confidentiality, which is what the process is meant to do. But the public will have no say and no viewing of how these proceedings shake out.
While the conversation surrounding curbing juvenile crime continues, realistically, lawmakers don't come back to session until January, meaning Maryland will likely have to wait several months before any change becomes reality. At the Accountability Desk, I'm Mackenzie Frost.
House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. If you'd like to contact them about public safety legislation, their phone numbers and email addresses are on your screen.
So the superintendent gave a glowing report and gave no time for questions. 4 minutes isn't enough time for questions.
Well, some of those who tuned in to hear what Howard County's elected officials had to say about the school system's bus crisis were left puzzled today when the meeting was adjourned before any questions could even be asked. Fox 45's Amy Simpson live in Ellicott City tonight with details on what happened out there today. Amy?
Yeah, Mary, so this today was a joint meeting between the Howard County Council and the Howard County Board of Education. And among just a handful of topics they were expected to discuss today were those transportation problems that so many families here in Howard County dealt with at the start of the school year. This joint meeting got underway on time at 9:45 this morning, but participants were told repeatedly they had a hard stop of discussions after 2 hours, needing to wrap things up at 11:45. The problem is they spent so much time discussing their other topics, they left just 4 minutes to address transportation. It was barely enough time for Howard County Superintendent Dr. Michael Marturano to give a brief update on the progress that's been made with transportation over the recent weeks. And some of those who were watching this meeting say how this all played out today sends the wrong message.
It sends the message that they don't want to discuss it. They want to keep pushing it under the rug, and they don't want to address the issues and be held accountable for what took place.
It didn't seem like that was a priority of today's meeting.
And Amy, so often we see school board and county council meetings stretch on for hours, sometimes 4 or 5 hours. What do people think why these discussions ended after just 2 hours?
Yes, sometimes many hours. Mary, you know that all too well. I did learn today that the Howard County Council had its own separate meeting scheduled for 2 p.m. this afternoon, leaving really little buffer time for those discussions to continue. Now, both Howard County Council and the Howard County School Board agreed to have transportation be the top agenda item on their next meeting. But the problem with that is this group only meets jointly every quarter. Their next meeting scheduled for December 11th. We're live in Ellicott City. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Urgency is building for House Republicans to agree on a new speaker. I'm Atrell Nishar on Capitol Hill with where things stand after a critical party vote.
And if you're thinking of getting out and mowing the lawn like I know I have to do, after work could be a good time. Temperatures at 72 through 5 p.m., 70 degrees at 6. And as the sun begins to set, we drop into the 60s at 7. Let you know how chilly it gets tonight and when that next weather maker arrives with a wet down and if it impacts your weekend plans. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Let's update that breaking news out of BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport. Fox 45 News is learning the reason why the airport went on lockdown. A source with the Maryland State Police confirms that a man drove to the curb at the airport and announced he had explosives inside his vehicle. On your right is video from the airport showing what appears to be that man being arrested. We are waiting official word from the airport right now, but an all clear has been given. And if you're heading in that direction on your evening commute, you should brace for some slowdowns, even delays. Now, this just in. House Republicans have nominated Congressman Steve Scalise to be the next Speaker of the House. The vote happened behind closed doors. Scalise won with 113 votes after a rule change lowered the threshold to 111. Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio finished second. The full House had indicated earlier that it would take up the vote, but that's not happening at this point. Atre El-Nashar has the story.
House Republicans agree they need to unite as a party to choose a new speaker. How or when that will happen is anyone's guess.
Obviously, we still have work to do. We're going to have to go upstairs on the House floor and resolve this.
Louisiana Congressman and Majority Leader Steve Scalise emerged from a closed-door party meeting as the nominee with support from 113 House Republicans casting secret ballots. But his path to earning the gavel isn't yet clear.
It's not over. I'm still throwing my support behind Jim Jordan for Speaker.
Scalise's win over Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan came after Republicans voted against a plan to avoid a repeat of January's Speaker vote drama. By requiring the nominee to get 217 votes within the GOP conference before bringing the matter to the House floor. Members of both parties expressing concern about another drawn-out process.
We hope our Republican colleagues will put an end to the self-inflicted chaos.
We have a lot of problems in the world right now, as you know, with the Hamas invasion of Israel. Now Hezbollah is threatening. We can't afford this dysfunction.
Not only is Congress up against a mid-November deadline to fund the government, but without a speaker, Congress cannot approve additional aid for Israel or Ukraine.
Our first resolution that we pass under Speaker Steve Scalise will be to make it clear that we stand with Israel.
The White House not yet confirming reports they plan to put forth a spending package that includes funds for Israel, Ukraine, the southern border, and Taiwan. The National Security Council's John Kirby saying this about what they can do in the meantime.
In the immediate term right now, we can continue to support, with the authorities and the appropriations we have, Israel and Ukraine. But, we're certainly running out of runway.
The administration now working with Congress on what future aid will look like. On Capitol Hill, I'm Atre El-Nashar reporting.
All right, things looking great for now. A warm week's end, just like what we saw today for tomorrow and perhaps even Friday. But then for the weekend, a weekend weather maker moves in, and it is going to usher in not only rain, but also a big cool down. 71 right now, reporting some mostly cloudy skies, primarily just some high clouds as the sun's getting through here. Toyota HDR, I'll get that out. Toyota HDR Harbor Skycam shot that is really pleasing to the eye here. Humidity at 30%, dew points at 38 dry degrees. Maybe good for a walk or a run after work this evening. 71 right now here in Baltimore. We're at 70 at Cockeysville, 70 at Westminster, 72 at Frederick, and temperatures are in the 60s to around 70 along the eastern shore. This is about very close to actually where we should be for this time of year. 43 for a low this morning here in Baltimore, tying up the 43 that we had a couple of mornings ago, which was the coldest that we had seen since May 6th, early in the spring. So, yeah, temperatures are getting to that kind of leaf-turning type level with the chilly mornings, the warmer afternoons. That's going to be occurring as well over the next couple of days. So you'll have to pay attention to that as you get dressed. You're going to have kind of that short sleeves under the jacket type of deal as you head through Thursday and Friday. Now, the next weather maker going to be coming out of some of this moisture that's down to the south and west and also up around Minneapolis and Chicago. That will combine to make for our next storm system. For now, we've got warmer weather and just a couple of clouds. And for now, also, that moisture is just going to skirt around us. Notice the upper 70s that are out to our west. We'll probably see some mid to upper 70s in our forecast by the time we get to tomorrow. But then again, that rain, it looms for the weekend. Now, out in the tropics, there's Tropical Storm Sean, eventually becomes a tropical depression over the next few days. And then there's also a low chance of development that shoots out just off the African coastline out into the central Atlantic over the next several days as well. So that's one to watch. Now, as we take a look at the future scan, what you notice here, yes, it becomes that cool overnight, some crisp temperatures when you wake up, 40s to near 50, just like this morning, and then into tomorrow, back into the 70s. About 75 to 80. Real nice day coming our way for Thursday. So for tonight, 45, partly cloudy skies, a little on the cool side. Tomorrow, 75, partial sunshine. Get outside, enjoy it, maybe a bag lunch. 72, continued mild for Friday. There's your rain on and off for Saturday. Cool day Sunday, mainly morning showers there. Probably the better of the 2 weekend days. Drier day on Monday. More scattered showers Tuesday and highs in the 60s by next Wednesday.
If you're coming up at 5 o'clock, if you're a reader, you could score yourself some free tickets to the National Aquarium, the program happening this fall, and how to sign up. Baltimore City Schools is out nearly $500,000, money that went toward school police overtime during the pandemic and was never reimbursed by the city. Project Baltimore has been trying to find out why and whether it could be related to the FBI investigation into a school police resource officer who was in charge of assigning that overtime. On Tuesday, we tried speaking with City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises before the board meeting, but multiple police officers were standing by as Andre Riley, City School Officials Director of Communication, told Fox 45 that wouldn't happen.
We're not trying to get in the way. We are not trying to be disruptive. We simply want to ask Dr. Santelises a question. This could all be avoided if Dr. Santelises would just give us 3 minutes. 3 minutes is all I need.
She's not.
I know she's not.
So why would you?
Because she is the head of a giant school system, and we believe that she should be answering questions from the media for taxpayers.
Tonight at 10 o'clock, Project Baltimore explains the importance of the money that has not been reimbursed and the impact on taxpayers.
All right, let's take a quick look at that weekend forecast. Now, for our Friday, any plans? If you want to maybe take Friday off, that may be the best idea. Temperatures in the 70s, a couple of patchy clouds. Look what happens for Saturday. Computer models putting in an almost all-day rain. I think the worst of it comes during the midday and afternoon. And then Saturday, mainly morning showers. Could have still some clouds during the afternoon, but I think things get better as we head into the second half of the day. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Again, as we head into early week, we'll still see some rain lasting. So this could be a long-winded system here. Let's take a look at this weekend's forecast. If you're going to the pumpkin patch, continued mild for Friday. We've got a green pumpkin. All systems go. Get out there. Saturday, rain develops. We'll put a red pumpkin out for that one, 63. And then I'd say in the morning, maybe not the best time, but by afternoon on Sunday could get better. But chilly, get those jackets ready with highs around 60 for getting that gourd.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, the House remains without a speaker, although there's just been movements in that. The latest developments in the search. Plus, Baltimore City Police Commissioner Richard Worley speaks on the future of the city, his top priorities.
Live from WBFF TV in Baltimore, this is breaking news.
Fox 45 News continues to follow the breaking news at BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport, which has now been given the all clear. A source with Maryland State Police confirming a man drove up this afternoon to the terminal and told police he had explosives in his car. That man is in custody. As a result, police shut down all roads heading in and out of the airport. The FBI and ATF have joined the investigation.
The airport has been given the all clear. On the left side of your screen, it's a look at current conditions right now. That's the terminal leading up, or the road leading up to the terminal at BWI, still long with cars, as you can see. On the right side of your screen, what the backup was looking like just an hour ago before the all clear was given.
Now, we're also seeing some video surfacing on Twitter of what appears to be an arrest happening outside one of the terminals. Again, the man who drove his car up and claimed there were explosives in it has been arrested as in custody at this hour. We'll continue to update this breaking news throughout our newscast and throughout the night, and of course on foxbaltimore.com.
Also breaking tonight, a 7th grader in Baltimore is found with a loaded handgun, according to police. Authorities say that suspect is 15. This happened earlier at Joseph C. Briscoe Academy in East Baltimore. The school administration tells Fox 45 News the student was involved in an altercation with a staff member. The students left the school saying he'd return with the gun, and police say he did in fact return with the loaded gun and was arrested. School officials say he was found with that gun off school property and never made it inside the building with the weapon. There's no word on the consequences the child is facing. Keith Daniels will have more in the story tonight at 10.
I understand the concerns. They're sincere. I'm glad they're thinking about these particular issues, but let's not get ridiculous in our security measures. Let's still understand this is a learning environment.
Debate over new safety measures at Morgan State University after Baltimore's 9th mass shooting this year alone rocks the community. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala.
I'm Kai Jackson. Well, this week, the university announced that they want to build a wall around the entire campus after a shooter opened fire on students during homecoming week. Some believe a wall would be a good investment. Others aren't convinced.
Yeah, it's fencing I think they also want to put up. The back and forth comes as Baltimore's new police commissioner shares his hopes for the city. Richard Worley has faced a number of problems during his time in the position, including the spike in auto thefts and carjackings, mass shootings, and the juvenile crime crisis.
Well, we have team coverage tonight, beginning with Rebecca Pryor. She joins us live from Morgan State University with opinions on both sides of that proposed wall or fencing. Rebecca?
Yeah, Kai and Mary, keep in mind that this is a massive campus. Take a look at just a small piece of it. It stretches more than 185 acres in the heart of East Baltimore. So as you can imagine, it would be a massive wall that they would need to wrap around the entire school and its 9,000 students. It is a costly and time-consuming solution that some students say wouldn't make them feel any safer. With Morgan State students still reeling from a homecoming week turned tragic.
You're not going to see more people outside as late, like now.
I kind of just stay in my room or stay mostly indoors.
They don't feel like, safe like they used to.
The wide open concept on their public campus, welcoming the community to utilize the library and other shared resources, could soon be cut off and students closed in.
Unfortunately, going forward, Morgan State University will have to look at closing even more significantly ingress and egress opportunities to the campus.
During a private town hall, University President Dr. David Wilson suggesting a number of new safety measures following a mass shooting outside the Thurgood Marshall dorms, leaving 5 injured, 4 of them students. Among the potential precautions, rigorous identification requirements, increased police presence and security checkpoints, and even enclosing campus.
We're going to be looking at several covert and subvertive measures to determine who may be a visitor, who may be a threat, as well as moving our Morgan Wall completely around the campus.
Wilson, alongside campus police, proposing a barrier be built around the school's 185-acre campus, a dividing wall.
Like as a student, knowing that there's that extra barrier for like somebody to have to get through, it's settling, a little bit.
I don't feel like I'm safer because of that.
That's now dividing students.
The wall is just kind of a impractical overreaction.
Law enforcement expert and former FBI agent Tyrone Powers weighing in.
And it doesn't make any logical sense, and it would not make anyone at Morgan, whether it's faculty members, students, administrators, or visitors, more secure.
Powers calling the school's intentions sincere, but the execution flawed.
The solutions, the security measures have to be well thought out, they have to be practical, and they have to take into consideration this is still a college or a university where students should be going to school, not locked in and locked out.
Okay, that's 30 seconds.
Now, speaking of those increased security measures, we have a police officers here with us now telling us we need to leave the public university's campus. So we are going, she's trying to get in front of our camera, so we're going to respect that, and we will leave the university grounds now. Back to you.
All right, Rebecca, thank you. Well, the Morgan State mass shooting is just one of the examples of the ongoing issues facing Commissioner Richard Worley and the police department. But now he's sharing his vision for the future of Baltimore. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell continues our live team coverage with more. Alexa?
Well, Mary, in a 2-minute video about to show you, the commissioner outlines his vision for the Baltimore Police Department. And while experts say his goals are, in fact, on point, they question just how achievable they are given BPD's manpower.
The last several months have been tough, to say the least.
Baltimore Police Commissioner Rich Worley starting off his message to the people of Baltimore with an obvious truth. In just the past 3 months, the city has experienced a deadly mass shooting during its annual Brooklyn Day. Fear and questions surrounding the manhunt and handling of the search for accused murderer and rapist Jason Billingsley, and most recently the mass shooting on Morgan State University's campus.
For him, this is a difficult time, but it's a time that he could anticipate it and expect it. What he may not be used to is having to give explanations to the public.
This video, less of an explanation and more of a promise.
I'm committed to improving the quality of life in Baltimore by working with the community to decrease crime, reduce the murder rate, remove illegal guns and drugs from our streets, and continue to make arrests that ensure criminals stay in jail.
The commissioner vowing to improve community policing, reduce violent crime, increase BPD staffing, implement and achieve consent decree compliance, and improve BPD morale.
BPD officers will be increasing their time on foot patrol, conducting business checks, and getting to know the communities they serve. We will create, build, and improve our relationships with you through our community policing plan.
But how will the commissioner execute this vision with a department that remains hundreds of officers short and in a city that sees shootings and other crimes like auto thefts daily? Leaders have called BPD's officer shortage a nationwide issue and says the solution involves national help. Yet this reality stands, and experts have long said it's what will likely stand in the way of Baltimore police ultimately achieving compliance within the consent decree. Law enforcement expert Jason Johnson calling the staffing crisis Worley's biggest challenge.
That's the biggest challenge the new commissioner is going to be facing, in my opinion, is how to bounce back, how to retain senior officers, and how to attract high-quality young people.
Now, the commissioner went on to talk about public trust and accountability. Experts say the handling of these recent big cases and how those investigations unfold are very important. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
MONZI is a city agency. It is right here in City Hall, and so an agency like that should just be part of the agencies that are audited.
Councilman Yitzi Schleifer is calling for an audit of Mayor Brandon Scott's public safety agency.
And Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has been investigating the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement for 2 years. She joins us live with the latest demand for transparency. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Marika, we first brought you this story last week, and since then, the conversation continues to highlight the need for more accountability and transparency for an agency with expanding staff and a growing budget. Outside City Hall, Councilman Isaac Yitzi Schleifer making his concerns clear about the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONZI.
It matters where the money's originating from, and the money's originating from the taxpayers' pockets.
The agency first started in 2020 when Mayor Brandon Scott became the leader of Baltimore, now operating with a multi-million-dollar budget and 45 employees. MONZI is not one of the city agencies scheduled to be routinely audited.
We know him well, Baltimore City Councilman Isaac Yitzi Schleifer.
On Talk Radio Wednesday morning, Councilman Schleifer continuing his push for an audit, especially with questions about effectiveness of the $20 million Safe Streets program MONZI oversees.
I think everyone's entitled to know how much money, entities like LifeBridge are getting for it, even if it is just administrative.
Fox 45 News has been investigating Safe Streets for 2 years, going to all 10 locations, knocking on doors, searching for answers to questions like, how does the program work? Who are the employees? What are they doing on a daily basis? Each time met with silence from the people who are working, or they're told they can't talk to us, or even no one opening the door.
I'm quite concerned that we don't know how money is being spent. We don't know where the money is going.
Now, Councilman Schleifer raising new concerns about the lack of information coming to light about the Safe Streets program especially when the nonprofits running the locations don't answer questions from the council themselves, seen on display during the Brooklyn Day mass shooting oversight hearings.
These should be pretty basic questions that get answered.
They have been, and respectfully, they have been answered, and they have been answered directly to MONZI.
So why wouldn't that be answered to the public?
I would have to defer, again, respectfully, to MONZI as to whether or not they want to share what's been shared with them.
And so it's not really clear, what the chain of command is, who's actually in charge, and who's creating the protocols, or what the protocols actually are, or who the employees are.
MONZI is not part of the other city agencies routinely audited, but an audit commission that includes Councilman Schleifer and these 6 other members has the authority to ask for a review. Fox 45 News asking the members of the commission about a MONZI audit, and in addition to Schleifer, Councilman Eric Costello, Comptroller Bill Henry, and the Inspector General Isabel Mercedes Cumming all say they support auditing MONZI. The rest of the members, Councilman Christopher Burnett, Council President Nick Mosby, and the city's finance director, ignoring the question.
I would encourage, MONZI to do is to start being transparent and start answering questions so that we don't have to wait for an audit.
Beyond probing the city's finances, MONZI doesn't have a permanent leader. Shantae Jackson abruptly leaving in June.
MONZI is better off without a leader than the previous leader that they had.
And Stephanie Mavronis, the interim director after serving as chief of staff. Mayor Brandon Scott already late on naming a leader. During the budget hearings in June, City Administrator Faith Leach saying she wanted a director in place within 60 days. That timeline has come and gone.
We are still searching. We have some folks, and we're going to continue to bring in the best and the brightest.
Is Stephanie part of that search?
I
just want to know if Stephanie is part of the search.
Anybody that applies is a part of the search.
Has she applied?
I can't. Now I can't tell you that. That's a personnel issue, Mackenzie. Thank you.
It's certainly important that they find a new leader and that somebody who understands the importance of transparency and accountability and what it means to spend tens of millions of dollars of taxpayer money to provide a function and to have the right metrics involved so we can actually see what we're getting.
Now, the chair of this audit commission, Councilman Eric Costello, could ask the city to do a one-off audit of MONZI, but right now it's unclear if that will happen. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. That brings us to our question of the day. Should there be an independent audit of MONZI? To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Well, still ahead tonight, 22 Americans falling victim to the violence in the Middle East. The new aid coming from the U.S.
And the afternoon and evening commute looking good. Temperature is going to be nice and mild. Open up the windows, enjoy it while we got it. Temperature at 70 degrees at 6 sunsets, and we're falling through the 60s. I'll let you know when highs may struggle to make it to 60, and we could have some rain too. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
The road through postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
Needing a win to keep their season alive, the O's were simply outplayed in Game 3 of the ALDS. Dean Kramer just 1 2/3 innings pitched and 6 earned runs, while the O's bats only managed to score 1. As their season, one of the most memorable seasons in recent years for the O's, ends here in Arlington with a 7-1 defeat to the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, it's not how you want to end the season. Felt like we fought to the end and just didn't work out in our favor.
Yeah, this feeling sucks, but on the bright side, this is our first taste of the postseason. And I mean, we're all basically, pretty much everybody in this clubhouse is coming back, so a lot of good years to look forward to.
This marks the first time the O's have been swept since May of 2022. And this loss will sting for a while, but it's one that will serve as motivation for this core group of young guys that will be back here in 2024.
This hurts, and it's okay to hurt, and it's okay to have this kind of fuel your fire in the off season. You know, it's going to take a little bit while for us to get over this a little bit, but I think our guys are going to come in hungry in spring training. The guys that are coming back, especially the young guys, knowing what this feels like, knowing what this tastes like, and it sucks.
It was a lot of fun, when we were playing, and yeah, I think next year we're going to be excited and hopefully make it back again next year.
We were able to win our division, so going into next year, that's what we're going to expect out of ourselves. You know, we've turned the tables here, and we expect to win. So I think that's just where we all are as players. That's what we're going to expect out of ourselves next year, is to get back here and make a run, go take it all the way to the end.
And we see it all the time. Guys from the other team watching the winning team celebrate a championship or division victory. Ryan Mountcastle, one of the Orioles that was watching the Rangers celebrate that Game 3 win from the top step. Talk about motivation going forward. That's really all you need right there. For now in Arlington, Rocco DeSangro for Sports Unlimited.
And Fox 45 is your exclusive home for the 2023 World Series. The Fall Classic begins Friday, October 27th. You can catch all the action right here on Fox 45. And make sure you are following the Rip and Rock podcast. Ryan Ripken and our own Rocco DeSangro break down the hunt for the World Series with new episodes every Monday. You can stream them anywhere you get your podcasts.
And we are looking good, although the O season didn't end quite like we would have liked it. It's still beautiful weather-wise for now, and it looks like a warm week's end, a big weekend cool down that could be accompanied by some rain with our next weekend weather maker. So things are going to be changing for the not so pretty as we head into Saturday and beyond. But for now, still absolutely gorgeous. There is a system to our south over the southeastern U.S. just skirting by, throwing some clouds into our Eastport Yacht Club picture here on our web camera network. We're at 69 degrees, mostly cloudy skies reported at BWI. Winds out of the west at 5, and our humidity 36%. Dew points now are in the low 40s, which is very dry, crisp levels of moisture in the air. So really a gorgeous day once again. Temperatures in the mid to upper 60s to out west near 70 up at Westminster and Frederick. Got a load of these lows this morning, down to 43 here in Baltimore, 46 at Westminster, 39 at Frederick. Some of these cool numbers, some of the coolest numbers that we've seen since last spring. I know a couple of mornings ago we had a 43 here in Baltimore, but before that, 43 wasn't reached since back on May 6th. And everybody's going to be crisp again for tonight. Now, we track the next weather maker. Down to our south, you see all that rain that I was talking about. And then there are also some showers here around Chicago. Most of this moisture to our south is going to skirt away and out of here with that system initial kind of energy number 1, we'll say, as we head into Thursday and into Friday. But notice some of the stuff that's left behind here into Friday down around Florida. And then there's more around Minneapolis and St. Louis. That going to pair together and probably make for a mess of our Saturday. In the interim, though, temperatures warming out to the west. Temperatures near 80 degrees at St. Louis. We could be 75 to 80 for tomorrow. Taking a look here out in the tropics. Yes, we're still kicking with Sean. That's a tropical storm, becomes a tropical depression next several days. And then there's also a low chance of development that's off the coast of Africa. But that's got some several days or even weeks until we have to watch out for anything major. So overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, drops down into the 40s to near 50. For tomorrow, sun shines back, high temperatures nice and warm up to about 75 to 80. Stays nice as well on Friday, 72. There's that nasty day. Saturday, rain develops, 63. Maybe some improvements by Sunday afternoon, but chilly with a high 60. Clouds, some sun Monday, and could see some scattered showers return in time for next Tuesday. So real fall feel Saturday and beyond.
Now there's Holocaust #1 and Holocaust #2.
Well, still ahead tonight, the fallout continues in the Middle East as the U.S. State Department steps in. But first, the juvenile crime crisis top of mind for leaders across Maryland, the laws they're taking issue with and what they want to see changed. Tonight, the Carroll County State's Attorney is joining other top prosecutors across our state, sounding the alarm about the juvenile crime crisis and laws on the books that they say need to change. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker sat down with him today and has his concerns.
Like other state's attorneys we've heard from, he says his hands are tied when it comes to holding juveniles accountable. Carroll County State's Attorney Haven Shoemaker says they're not seeing quite the uptick surrounding areas are when it comes to juvenile crime, but what they are seeing are younger and younger offenders who he says know the crimes they can get away with, thanks to the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, which limits those 13 and under to charges for crimes of violence, and says a juvenile under 10 cannot be charged.
Not only do they know, I suspect they're involved in many instances with criminal enterprises. And the adults who are running those operations know that our laws are so lax that these folks can't be touched. And so they're using them as mules or whatever to engage in criminal activity.
Shoemaker says lawmakers should have held a special session and is now hopeful that they'll roll back some of these laws when they are back in session next year. He plans to be there to testify about some of the negative impacts they're currently having on communities across the state. In Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
And Fox 45 News has heard from more than a dozen state's attorneys across Maryland who represent more than 5 million people. That is roughly 87% of the state's population. Now, those prosecutors say their hands are tied. Prosecutors also taking issue with a proposed bill backed by Senator Jill Carter, which would automatically charge anyone under 18 as a juvenile. They argue some crimes are severe enough to carry adult charges. House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers lawmakers in Annapolis. If you want to contact them about public safety legislation, their phone numbers and email addresses are right there on your screen. Well, coming up after the break, parents voicing outrage as school bus issues persist in Howard County. The calls tonight for accountability.
The ripple effects of the Israel-Hamas fight continue to shake up America. I'm Kayla Gaskins, and coming up, why weighing in cost a law student their job.
Four minutes isn't enough time for questions.
It sends a message that they don't want to discuss it.
Some of those who tuned in to hear what Howard County's elected officials had to say about the school system's bus crisis were left puzzled today when that meeting was adjourned before any questions could be asked.
Fox 45's Amy Simpson live in Ellicott City with more on what happened today. Amy.
Yeah, so while signs are pointing to improvements in student transportation since that school bus disaster at the start of the school year, some are still looking for answers and accountability about what happened, leaving them a bit stunned with how today's meeting played out. It was a joint meeting of the Howard County Council and the Howard County School Board today. The group scheduled to discuss just a handful of topics. And one topic of high interest, student transportation.
Since we only have 4 minutes left, I think we need to move on to our last agenda item, transportation.
Even though that meeting got underway at 9:45 this morning, participants were told repeatedly there was a hard stop of discussions 2 hours later at 11:45, leaving less than 5 minutes for that start of the year school bus crisis to be addressed.
I'll do my level best to provide some level of overview in the next
3 minutes.
Those few minutes forcing just a brief update from Howard County Superintendent Dr. Michael Martirano.
I am pleased to report that we have addressed the significant delays that we have faced at the beginning of the school year.
But leaving no time for any questions or any fruitful discussion about the school bus cancellations and delays that impacted thousands of students for several weeks at the beginning of the year. Those troubles with Zoom, the district's new California-based bus contractor, were so bad, the superintendent adjusted school start and dismissal times a few weeks into the year.
So the superintendent gave a glowing report and gave no time for questions. 4 minutes isn't enough time for questions.
Those outspoken in the search for answers and accountability for all the bus problems left stunned by how today's meeting played out.
It doesn't seem like this is a priority for the meeting. It didn't seem like that was a priority of today's meeting.
And some who were watching say leaving 4 minutes for the bus issue today sends the wrong message.
It sends the message that they don't want to discuss it. They want to keep pushing it under the rug, and they don't want to address the issues and be held accountable for what took place.
Both the county council and the school board agreed to put the transportation issue at the top of the agenda for their next joint meeting. But these groups only meet quarterly, meaning that discussion won't take place until December. And Mary Kai, you know this all too well. So often we see school board and even county council meetings stretch on for several hours, leaving some people a bit confused about that hard stop today after just 2 hours. But county council was scheduled for another separate meeting at 2 o'clock this afternoon, which did leave little buffer room for those discussions to continue. We're live in Ellicott City. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Well, Baltimore City Schools is currently out of nearly $4.5 million, money that went towards school police overtime during the pandemic and was not reimbursed by the city. Project Baltimore has been trying to find out why and whether it could be related to the FBI investigation into a school police officer who was in charge of assigning overtime. Tuesday, we spoke with the city schools, tried to speak with City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises before the board meeting, but multiple police officers did not allow that to happen, as the city schools executive director of communication told Project Baltimore that interview wouldn't happen.
We're not trying to get in the way. We are not trying to be disruptive. We simply want to ask Dr. Santelises a question. This could all be avoided if Dr. Santelises would just give us 3 minutes. 3 minutes is all I need.
She's not.
I know she's not.
So why would you?
Because she is the head of a giant school system, and we believe that she should be answering questions from the media for taxpayers.
Well, tonight at 10 o'clock, Project Baltimore explains the importance of this money that has never been reimbursed and the impact on taxpayers.
Tonight, Baltimore City's music community mourning the loss of a rising star. According to police, 28-year-old David Boykin, a local artist who went by President Davo, was shot and killed in East Baltimore on Friday. As the search for a suspect continues, Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has more on how the victim is being remembered.
Playing for sold-out shows and cheering crowds. This was the lifelong dream of Baltimore-based rapper David Boykin, better known by his stage name, President Davo, who friends and family say was on the brink of his big break.
He was special because of his voice. His voice was like a tool in itself. It was like an instrument in itself.
He was somebody that everybody looked at as one that could get out and be representation for the city.
But last Friday, Boykin's life and rising music career abruptly cut short. According to police, around 6 p.m., Boykin found dead near Clifton Park, suffering from several gunshot wounds.
Yeah, we live in a treacherous city.
Boykin's manager and close friend, Lorenzo Bird.
I got so much to say to him, but yeah, just tell him that I love him.
Claiming tragedies like these becoming all too common for those involved in Baltimore's music industry.
We losing our kids, man. We losing them to the jail, to the streets, to death, to all of that.
As the search for a suspect continues, Boykin's loved ones praying for answers while mourning what this loss means to them and this city.
He was a city hero.
According to fellow Baltimore City rapper Stars, Boykin was much more than an entertainer. He was an activist, known for giving back to his community with a deep passion for partnering with local drug abuse prevention programs.
The opioid craze that's going on, he was helping fight against that because he wanted kids to stop taking medicine and pills as popular. He was in those kind of things. He was for the neighborhood. He was for, the kids.
On a mission to bring Baltimore to a better place.
Baltimore, do you agree with me? I lost my dog and lost a piece of me.
Both Stars and Bird say it's a mission they hope will live on through his music and the 3 young children Boykin now leaves behind.
Go to his YouTube, stream his videos, all his proceeds and everything going to his kids.
Was one of the greatest from our city. And whether he knew it or not, he will be remembered for being one of the best here.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Let's go live to Capitol Hill right now, the nation's capital. House Republicans nominate Congressman Steve Scalise right now for open House Speaker position. Scalise, former Speaker Kevin McCarthy's second lieutenant, won over his fellow Republicans by a relatively small 113-99 margin on a secret ballot after a rule change lowered that threshold to 111. Congressman Jim Jordan came in second. Democrats are nominating Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York. Whoever wins will need 217 votes. Well, we are seeing more disturbing videos out of the Middle East. Complete destruction as a result of the war between Israel and Hamas. In Gaza, many residents don't have electricity, and the territory's only power plant has run out of fuel amid an Israeli blockade. Israel has stopped entry of food, water, fuel, and medicine into Gaza. The 25-mile strip of land is home to 2.3 million Palestinians. Humanitarian groups are pleading for safe passage corridors for refugees.
And Israel appears to be readying for a ground incursion after leveling buildings with airstrikes in its counteroffensive against Hamas's terror attack.
Hamas militants have continued to fire rockets at Israel, sending residents running for shelter. And we warn you, the video you're about to see is disturbing.
The ongoing violence has claimed the lives of innocent people on both sides. Palestinian officials say more than 1,000 people have been killed since Saturday. The death toll in Israel has climbed to at least 1,200, including at least 22 Americans.
Well, the impacts of this conflict are being seen around the world.
And tonight we have team coverage on a local and national level, starting with Fox 45's Megan Gillen. She spoke with lifelong Baltimore City resident Pastor P.M. Smith about the ongoing violence.
You're taking a look at video here from Pikesville last night, where hundreds gathered to show solidarity for Israel. The impacts of the attacks there at the hands of Hamas are being felt all across the world as we watch innocent people being killed, women and children being taken hostage. The surprise attack carried out on a Jewish holiday, and the fighting only intensifying. Lifelong Baltimore resident Pastor P.M. Smith weighing in on this war. We hear from Hamas that this is a religious war, but the images we're seeing are that of brutality. We are seeing what many are describing as a massacre.
Yes, ma'am. Now, you know, this is a softball question for me. Number one, not every lawyer is a practicing lawyer. Not every Christian is a practicing Christian. I'm a practicing Christian. I stand with Israel morally, politically, personally, and militarily. They have a right and a responsibility to fight back. It's a sovereign nation.
Pastor Smith went on to say he believes Israel will prevail. You can watch his entire interview on foxbaltimore.com. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
Concerns of anti-Semitism are on the rise in America following the attacks on Israel. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has that story.
As Israel reels from Hamas's surprise brutal attack, killing 1,200 and counting, Black Lives Matter chapters siding with the Palestinians. BLM grassroots in LA writing, their resistance must not be condemned, but understood as a desperate act of self-defense. Adding, as a radical black organization, they see clear parallels between black and Palestinian people. BLM Chicago tweeting out this photo. BLM Washington, D.C. retweeting anti-Israel statements. Former NBA star Amari Stoudemire, who is Jewish, slamming the support.
It ain't never been cool to kidnap kids and put them in cages. It ain't never been cool to kill women and elderly. All you Black Lives Matter people